Y'all should see that. Okay. Get it back to where I have a good setup. Okay. So, welcome everybody to the Dallas-Fort Worth DFW Power BI user group for June. This month, what we're going to do is do a recap, what they're calling an after party from Microsoft Build. And I'll explain what that is a little bit here. I got some support from Microsoft on a little bit on how to structure this, what to kind of do. I'm going to have a survey link for everybody to fill out. But there's been some really, really good announcements from Microsoft over the month of May, more towards the end of the month of May when build occurred. And so we're going to recap some of those. There's a video I'm going to play that's from the leader at Microsoft talking about a lot of it. What I'm going to do is kind of skip through that video, I think. So if you have questions on that during that video or anything, just kind of raise your hands to stop me. But I'm going to stop the video at a couple places that I have marked down and skip over some things so that we're not just sitting there listening to a video together for 45 minutes. But if something comes up during that video, I encourage you to raise your hand and let's have a conversation about it. This is more about you learning some of the newer features and maybe how you could use it soon or later with what you need to deliver through Power BI. All right. So then after that, we'll talk a little bit about the next meetings. And then as always, we kind of stay open. And we haven't had a lot of this lately, but I'll turn the recording off after we go through everything. And it's just an open time period to bring up any questions, challenges that you have with what you're trying to do with Power BI. And we welcome all questions. We'll give the best answers that we can. We got, a lot of people here. That's also a community time to give answers. So you get free advice, and as I always say, that advice is worth what you're being charged for it. All right. Moving on to slide 2. We talk about this each month. It's a slide that I picked up from Microsoft. I think it's a very good slide. Excuse me. During this time, right, we just want this meeting to be open for everybody. I think this group here has been wonderful about that. I think we're very inviting. I like how we could just talk a little bit at the beginning and get to know each other. Be open to all questions and all viewpoints, right? Which also means that, never feel that you're asking a, quote unquote stupid question, because, everybody's at different levels and has different questions. Even if we've heard it 1,000 times before, we don't mind re-answering it because that's where you're at. We're here to help you, right? So if you hear a question and, you've heard it in the past, don't worry, just kind of move on and we'll do our best with all of that. And just everybody's a little bit different. So, this last sentence, last bullet point really kind of picks it up. Just be kind, right? That's all we are ever looking for. All right, so to kind of reintroduce this user group itself, right? Again, we're the Dallas-Fort Worth Power BI user group. We have been meeting virtually for quite a while now, since the pandemic. We haven't totally decided to go back in person or go to even a hybrid yet. I know some of our counterparts that run the SQL Server user group out of Dallas, they've gone back to fully in person, which tells me that the Microsoft Office is open and they're allowed to be going in there. So if we wanted to, we could probably try to do the same thing. If you feel like that would be beneficial to you, please let us know. We'd love to hear your input on it, and the leaders, the other leaders who are all here tonight, Amin and Michelle, we'll discuss it and we'll see if we can make it happen. Otherwise, we'll expect to continue virtual. This does work out well for getting other speakers, bringing people in. You saw early on that we had somebody, we already have somebody from California, Daryl, who just said Sacramento, around the St. Louis area. We get a lot of people around. So I want to continue to foster that and keep it going. I'll put some of these links out here, but you probably found us through the meetup group. That still seems to be the best place to find everything. We do have a site up on the Power BI community, but honestly, we don't post our meetings there right now. I need to get off my um, get that on my task list and keep that one up to date. I'll have to give you a new Slack invite. We use Slack that people could talk to anybody within the group during in between meetings. I get people that connect there all the time and ask questions. Um, Everything that we record, we put out onto our YouTube channel, and I'll put these all out into the chat here in just a minute. And then LinkedIn, we have a group, specialized group within LinkedIn for the DFW users group. So that's how you're going to be able to connect with us. All right, Microsoft Build. So we're going to run through these bullet points. I don't have many other slides. We're going to run through these bullet points after I go through and play a video that I mentioned. And it's this video, Democratize Your Data at Scale with Power BI for Microsoft. And in here, there's a blog post that goes with it. Again, I'll copy all these links over. Um, and then some of the major announcements that we'll cover when we kind of come back from it. I think some of them are not going to be in there. Yeah, these are the top part is the announcements we're going to hear off of the video. They're going to talk about what's called Data Mart, that goals is becoming metrics, and telling a story with your data, which is the Power BI integration for PowerPoint. There were other things that we'll cover afterwards. And then I'm going to try to do some live presentations of two of these things. I'm going to try to do the PowerPoint and then this one down below that I'll talk more about, which is called formatted data tables. That's in preview. Okay, so with that, let me move this one out of the way. And if anybody has anything that, again, any questions or anything while I'm organizing myself, feel free to bring them up. Oh, you know what I should cover first off? So Build is a conference that Microsoft has every year, right around the month of May. They have two major conferences a year, Build, and I think the second one is still Ignite, which is going to be more around September. And that's really when during these two conferences, they announce a lot of what they've been doing and where they're going. And it's where they're going, it's these public previews that really kind of give you a good idea of what's going to be happening with not just Power BI. Build covers pretty much all of their development products, um, which is why it's called Build. So if you're interested in Teams or the other Power Platforms or Azure Synapse, SQL Server, I know they announced the new version of SQL Server 2022 build or edition, I think it is.
Yeah.
Thanks, Russ. Uh, and I sat through an early presentation with that. A lot of great features in it, a lot of things that's up in the cloud, which is Microsoft's normal progression is they'll do everything as cloud first and then start moving it down to on-prem. So a lot of things have moved down there, and the cloud has additional features that's added on. So if you're interested in SQL Server, you might want to go back to Build. Just search, and again, when I copy these links out, there'll be links you could get around to Build. But search for Build for Microsoft, and all the sessions have been recorded and are out there. All right. So I'm going to start playing this video. I'm going to play it for a little bit until we get the sound, and I'm going to pause it and ask if you guys could hear the sound. I think I'm sharing my system sound, so just let me know. So here we go.
I hear.
You hear it? Okay, great. So we'll keep going.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at Build. I'm Arun Ulag. I'm the Corporate Vice President of the Intelligence Platform. I'm here to talk to you about Power BI. We have some exciting new announcements. Let's get started. Our objective with Power BI is to help you drive a data culture where every employee in your organization can make better decisions based on data. Now, we've been on this journey for a while. We got started 7 years ago, and what you see here in terms of this curve is actually the usage growth of Power BI in terms of monthly active users. Power BI has grown like crazy over the last 7 years. Over 350,000 organizations in almost 200 countries use Power BI today, including 97% of the Fortune 500. Now, one of the exciting things for us is we continue to lead the Gartner Magic Quadrant. So if you saw the Gartner Magic Quadrant that came out this February, you'll notice that Power BI again continues to be the clear leader, both in terms of completeness of vision and ability to execute. That's because we have an innovation cadence that really is just simply unmatched in the industry. Now, what you see in this slide, and it's not meant to be read, is just the capabilities that we have delivered in Power BI in the last 12 months. As you can see, we've been incredibly hard at work building the capabilities that you care about, getting you the innovation on a weekly basis with the Power BI service, and getting you new capabilities in Power BI Desktop every single month. And a lot of these capabilities are not just capabilities that we thought of here in Redmond. These are based upon your feedback. We take your feedback in ideas.powerbi.com very seriously, and nothing gives my team more pleasure than taking your votes off the table.
So I do want to pause right there. When I watched this the first time, this was a wow slide moment for me. I love seeing how much they've done in just the last year, for items. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, or any thoughts on that.
Right on, man. You're absolutely right. I don't know what to compare it to.
Yeah.
I mean, think about you've been in technology for a long time. Me, not so much, but I don't have anything to compare it to that has this pace.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, back to it.
So you saw all the innovation that we delivered in the last 12 months. Well, let me tell you where we're going, and I have 3 exciting announcements to make today. So the first area we're innovating on is to empower every individual in your organization. This is about making Power BI really simple to use by making it pretty much like PowerPoint for data. This is about taking advantage of all of the AI capabilities to make sure that you can automatically find patterns in your data. And it's also about providing great mobile experiences. Well, I have an exciting new announcement today here in this category. We're announcing storytelling in PowerPoint. Well, what's this about? We're bringing the world's best BI product, Power BI, together with the world's best storytelling product, which is PowerPoint. With storytelling in PowerPoint, you can natively bring full Power BI reports into your PowerPoint presentation, which means that as you're having your conversation in PowerPoint, you can slice and dice your data. It also means that the next time you have your weekly, monthly, or quarterly review, you don't need to copy and paste Power BI visuals into your PowerPoint anymore. You can simply refresh the data. To show you this capability, I'm going to invite Maya Shenev. Maya, over to you.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and skip this part of it because I'm going to try to demo this. But if you want to see probably a better demo, come back and watch this part, right? It starts just before the 3-minute mark. But I'm going to show you, I worked with some people over the weekend. We looked at a couple things. But I'm going to give a much lighter demo, right? Just for sake of time. And if we have time later and you guys want to hear this, we could come back to play it. Let me see what my mark is to move forward. I'm going to have to clear that. So let's move to about the 8-minute mark.
So you saw how exciting that was. Thank you so much, Maya, for the demo.
My demo won't be as exciting.
The second area we're focused on is really to empower every team, because we know that teams need to be data-driven to drive the outcomes that they're trying to achieve for their company. This is why Power BI is just natively integrated into Teams. We have a personal app that is available for you in Teams. If you haven't checked it out, please try it out today. But Power BI is available everywhere where you work. whether that's Excel, which is the world's most popular tool for working with data, or whether it's SharePoint, pretty much Power BI is integrated into every part of your Office experience. Now, one of the exciting new capabilities that I'm announcing today is that metrics in Power BI is now generally available. Well, what is metrics about? We launched this capability about a year ago, and we called it goals then. So we're changing the name into metrics. But we're also doing something really, really important. Over the last 6 months, we've delivered a lot of new capabilities that makes metrics really easy to use and completely integrates into your workflows. It allows you to define the outcomes that you're trying to achieve as a team, and then assign those outcomes to individuals and visually connect it to the data in Power BI. That makes the metrics process data-driven. It's collaborative because it's built into Teams, and it uses all of the AI capabilities in Power BI to tell you how to achieve your metric and get ahead. A new capability we're announcing today is metrics now becomes hierarchical. So you can now define hierarchies, whether they're by product line, their geography, etc., and metrics can allow you to see exactly where you stand. To show you this new capability, I'm going to invite Patrick Baumgartner. Over to you, Patrick.
All right, I'm going to pause there. I'm trying to catch up on all the links. So let me get the link out there. I put the build highlights link and the link to this video in case you wanted to see them. But also, I'm going to skip this demo in what used to be called goals, which is now called metrics. So it's a name change. The name change has to do with another company that they bought that is rolling out a product called Goals. So they're doing the name change in order to avoid the confusion. I think I've heard there already is some confusion about that. I think it's Viva, if you all see Viva around or whatever. So anyways, that's part of the reason for the name change, but there is a lot more functionality that they've added this time. We have another MVP coming in August to talk about metrics, and he has done a wonderful presentation that I've seen before, and I know he's updated it for what's going to be for metrics. He stays very well involved with this, so I'm going to hold off on going deeper into metrics / goals inside here. Again, if somebody really wants to hear it, come back right about the 9:30, 9:40 mark. Go ahead and watch it. Or if there's things later on we really want to get back into it, we can. So I'm going to jump up now. And this is maybe a good place if anybody wants to give any feedback. Would you rather just watch a 45-minute, part of this, or you want me to just keep jumping through what I think the highlights are?
You sent the link anyway, right? To
Yeah.
the whole presentation. I mean, I think this is pretty awesome that we do these quarterly reports you just mentioned, and having it refresh like that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, Kevin, keep doing it as you're doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it curated.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it gets a little long, and I just I want us to interact and everything. So you could see some of this stuff. I could pause through here just to give you an idea of what the metrics scoreboard dashboard looks like. We were talking. I've used this, and we were talking about how easy it is to put the tracking on. And they're even adding more to it now that I see this, or the way it looks like it. But what I used to have to build out in like a backend database to either keep snapshots or keep a lot of history would take a lot of time. And you could do this so much faster, and it's going to snapshot the data for you. It's an amazing feature. So come back in August. Treb will talk about it a whole lot more, and we'll cover it again. All right, so I think I went just a bit too far. Yes, I wanted to go right about here, and we'll get into the next part.
The third area I want to talk to you about is how we empower every organization. We provide a lot of capabilities today that empower your developers with great low-code experiences. The first is really being able to ingest and prepare data. Power BI connects out of the box to over 150 different data sources, both on-premises and the cloud. You can reshape the data, you can get it into exactly the shape you want for analytics. The second is we help you build business semantic models. Well, this is how you express your calculations, your KPIs around your business logic, variance to budget, year-over-year growth, constant currency, things of that nature, which you can express in a rich language, which is DAX, data analysis expressions. We also provide great enterprise reporting capabilities, which allow you to burst reports out, distribute reports across large parts of your organization. With enterprise reporting, we also support paginated reports. These are pixel-perfect reports that are precisely formatted and can be delivered into your inbox in the morning. Paginated Reports is fully compatible with SQL Server reporting services, which is used extensively for the last, I would say, 15 plus years. So you have a quick way of getting your SQL Server reporting services reports just integrated into Power BI, so you have single unified infrastructure that's all in the cloud.
So he doesn't talk about it here. I don't think he does. But the other thing that I'm going to try to demo, which is called formatted tables, is based upon paginated reports. So we'll touch on paginated reports a little bit later, and show paginated reports is a premium feature, but with this formatted table that uses paginated report, it's available in the regular Pro license. And so again, we'll cover that a little bit later.
And lastly, great capabilities for management and governance, security capabilities, lineage, impact analysis, the ability to apply Microsoft information protection labels, application lifecycle management, and so much more. Now, with all of these capabilities, we have millions of developers taking advantage of them today and building amazing analytic solutions. Well, today, we're making a huge upgrade. This is probably the biggest new capability in Power BI that we delivered in the last 3 years. I'm excited to announce Data Marts in Power BI. Well, what exactly is a Data Mart in Power BI? Well, for the first time, we're bringing a completely no-code data warehousing experience just natively into Power BI. So when you ingest and prepare data, you can hydrate a data mart. And a data mart, think about a data mart as a small to mid-sized data warehouse. A data mart can work really well up to 0.5 terabyte in data volumes. So you can ingest and prepare data and hydrate your data mart, and you get your data mart ready for use without writing a single line of code. As soon as the data mart is ready, you have a SQL endpoint, which means that any SQL compatible tool can just query the data mart. It has never been easier before. Now, as you can see, this is a huge leap forward. To work with the Data Mart experience, you don't even need to open Power BI Desktop. All of the capabilities work in the Power BI service, and all of them work out of the box. To show you how the Data Mart capability works, I'm going to invite one of our customers. So Bayer is one of the world's largest organizations with.
Okay, so I'm going to skip over to this part because what I think is more interesting is the actual demo that is given on Data Mart. And so let me move forward here.
Kevin, can I just, I
Yeah.
think that I read that Data Marts is a premium feature. So you need PPU, premium per user, or a premium.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I doubt that it'll ever get down into a pro setup. As you heard him say there, right, the biggest part of it is that it becomes you have a SQL endpoint, which basically means you have a SQL server under the covers that Power BI is standing up and managing for you, which is a huge deal, right? And in a way, this is Microsoft extending away. Daryl, we were kind of talking with you earlier, where you have a big investment in Cognos. Now you get set up a data bar, and you'll get a SQL endpoint. And if Cognos could, connect to that SQL endpoint, which I think it should in the future. Right now, they're saying they're only supporting Management Studio and Azure Data Studio, but anything that supports the SQL endpoint should be able to connect. I can't remember if others have said they've tested that or not yet. I haven't personally tested it, but it does open up to those other type of tools. Anything that can do SQL will be able to connect to it. So I think it's this strategy to kind of bring people in that have other tools, but also ride on what they're doing in the rest of their back end. If you happen to know other things about Azure and other services, right? I mean, Azure SQL database is up there, and they have a managed services approach, And so they're just utilizing those capabilities that they've perfected throughout the years to make it even better, and put more value into the Power BI platform itself. So it has a way to go. I think it was Alexis. I think you said you were playing with data marts and you found it to be a little bit buggy, but possibly useful.
Yeah. I'm thinking it would eliminate an intermediary thing I use right now. It would eliminate that particular product if it works right.
Mhm. Yeah. So I don't know if Alexis was still on or if I got the comment incorrect, or maybe.
That's correct. I'm walking outside, so it's a little windy right now.
Okay. That's fine. I'll just read your comment. You know, that that he said that he has, it's pretty neat but buggy, and I'm finding the same thing. I've been sending some feedback to Microsoft on different things. But yeah, it's kind of like having Power BI desktop in the cloud. We're going to see that here. And so let's just get it going again.
Is using Power BI extensively, and you can see how they're betting on data marts. Thank you so much, Ernst. Thank you so much, Matthias. We really, really appreciate your partnership. So I'm sure you're all excited to see how data marts are actually going to work in Power BI. In order to show you all of those experiences, I'm going to invite Priya Sathi, Group Product Manager on Power BI, to be able to show you the data mart experience. Priya, over to you.
Thank you, Arun. Hi, all. I'm Priya Sathi, Group Product Manager here in the Intelligence Platform team. And today, I am super excited to walk you through an end-to-end demo of Data Mart in Power BI and show you how customers like T-Mobile are using it. Arun walked you through the 4 pillars of doing relational database analytics using Data Mart in Power BI to easily ingest and prep your data, create one source of truth for business semantics of data that can be used in any report or application, create amazing interactive and operational reports that are embeddable in any app, and manage and govern your data to make sure you're getting the most out of your investments. You can do all of this by creating a data mart in Power BI, by writing 0 lines of code and accelerating your time to delivery. And you can scale this to an enterprise level where it's not just about the analytics experience for one single individual. It's for thousands of users and meeting the most demanding needs of performance and security. So let's get right to it. Let's talk about ingesting data and prepping it for reporting. This is the first and most important aspect of analytics. As a user, I want to be able to easily connect to sources, transform, and load my data. I also want to do ad hoc analysis and explore my data using the language and tool of my choice. Let me show you how easy it is to do this with data marts. I'm in my Power BI workspace, which is a premium per user workspace. I see that I can create a new artifact type called data mart. I click on this, and a data mart, which is a fully managed SQL database, is automatically created for me. I have access to connect to data in over 150 different data sources. For this demo, I want to do analysis on my orders. And I'm going to start with my data in my SQL Server source. I connect to the source and I enter server details, database name, and my credentials, and I click Next. Once I'm authenticated, I'm presented with the full list of tables I have access to. I choose a few tables, and then I ask Datamart to pick the rest of the related tables and start transforming my data. Transforming data is, again, familiar Power Query transformation experience. I can do many different transforms without writing a single line of code. I go ahead, filter rows, remove some duplicates, create group by, and when I'm done, I just hit Save. The data mart with the tables are automatically created for me. A data flow with the ETL is also generated behind the scenes, and data is loaded. I'm now ready to start exploring the data in my tables. I can explore data by writing a query. Data Mart gives me 2 ways of writing a query, As a citizen developer, I can use this visual query building experience. I click on new query, start building a query by just dragging and dropping a few tables into the canvas. For this demo, I drag the customers and the orders table. I can create a complex join with just a few clicks. Here I'm picking the customer ID, joining customers and the orders tables. I can see my data every step of the way. Data Mart generates the optimal SQL query for you behind the scenes. Data Mart also comes with a full-blown SQL editor with full IntelliSense as well. As a pro developer who knows T-SQL, I can write my own SQL query. Here I have SQL query joining the customers and orders tables, and I see the data. Not only that, I can also open this SQL query in Excel and do further analysis there. No need to enter connection strings or anything else. Everything is just automated for me. Lastly, let me show you how.
So one of the things to point out, this, since it is in public preview right now, this new query and saving the queries obviously isn't supported, but since the button's there, we know it's coming. And from, that allowing you to save it and share it with others, that I think that's going to be a huge thing to help people learn SQL, or give some SQL to a few people that maybe us that know it, we could guide them a little bit better. So it's going to be interesting.
Easy it is to connect to this Data Mart using my SQL tool. I go into the Data Mart settings, grab the SQL endpoint, and I open up SQL Server Management Studio and connect to this Data Mart. I can now execute any SQL query just like I normally would and explore the data. That is just how easy it is to ingest and prep my data. Let's now talk about the business semantics of data. I want my business users to be able to create their business logic on the data. Examples are year-on-year calculations, totals, and gross margins. But I want to keep a single source of truth in Power BI. Let me show you how Power BI Data Mart makes this easy. In Power BI, datasets house metrics a business wants to track. With a Data Mart, I do not need to create this dataset. One is automatically generated for me. Now, before I show you how to set up this measure, for a performant Data Mart, I first need to set up relationships between tables. When I click on the modeling view in Data Mart, I see that the Data Mart has already created the relationships for me by auto-detecting them from the source. I can view details, modify them, and easily add my own relationships as well by just dragging and dropping fields from the different tables. This is important if I bring in data from other data sources to blend with my data here. The Data Mart comes BI ready. I can easily create measures, which are the business semantics, right here within this Data Mart UI. I create a new measure under orders table called total freight as a sum of freight by simply writing some DAX code. I have a full DAX editor with IntelliSense. I see my measure. I go ahead and set the display folder for my measure. I change some formatting, set some custom formatting here, and I can easily hide columns or even tables, so I only expose the right set of fields or tables to my users. I have never left the Data Mart environment. Now, this is the first time you're seeing Power BI modeling on the web. Gradually, you'll be able to do everything in Power BI Desktop right here in the web. Data Mart in Power BI brings the relational database model and the semantic model together in this.
So I think part of the comment that was out there earlier, right? It was again, I think Alexis said this, right? It's like they're moving desktop up to the web, and they're having Power BI Desktop in the cloud, and she just confirmed that is definitely their direction. And this is the start of it, is see how many people use it, what kind of experience that they have, producing measures, all of those type of things. So, that's a good thing, especially for people that have Macs, or they just don't have a machine powerful enough to run Power BI Desktop. I'm sure there's always going to be a reason to do advanced development in desktop or with other tools, but it's an interesting strategy going forward.
Kevin, can I ask you,
Yeah.
You just mentioned other tools. One of the things that I know you show sometimes is how you use these other tools in desktop to make it easier. I was thinking about calculation groups, which I've never used, but I just remember that was an example of something you couldn't do in desktop, that you needed the external tool. So have they talked about that they've maybe made an API available to whoever these parties are who make the tools? I mean, do you have any insight into that?
Yeah, I could tell you for sure because of testing that tabular editor cannot connect to the data set that they produce off the data mart. So it's not modifiable by a third-party tool. I can't remember for the life of me. So whether they said they will support it or not. So I don't have to break any of my rules, all right? But I haven't heard or I haven't remembered yet. I would hope that they would because otherwise, like you said, this is also the data set that they produce off of this is a direct query data set back to however the storage is happening for the data mart, say kind of through the SQL, if you think about it that way. So what that's going to mean for putting other things into the data set and calculation groups and stuff, which I'm not sure how they work, if they work as well with direct query, because there are some limitations with direct query. I think that might be part of why they're locking it down, Amin, but I think more on that to come. So Dan, you have your hand up. You might be able to answer this a little bit better. You took your hand down. Did you not want to talk, Dan? If you're talking, I can't hear you. I see he's off mute, but I'm not hearing him.
Does Dan work for Microsoft?
He just said he's got to fix his microphone. So
they don't want him to say anything.
No, I know Dan doesn't work. I know who Dan works for. And if you have nice red tools, you might know too. So go red. All right, I'm going to go back to the video. And if there's any other questions, just raise your hand.
One simple interface. And Data Mart keeps the database and the data set always in sync, so you don't have to do it. I can set up a full refresh or incremental refresh of a table. As data grows, I want to make sure that my users' reports are updated very quickly. So incremental refresh lets me bring in only data that's changed in a table. Let me show you how easy this is to set up. I set up incremental refresh on the orders table. I pick my date column, orders date, storage period, refresh period, and decide on only refreshing complete days and not partial days. Now this table will be refreshed incrementally for me. Database and dataset are always kept in sync, and all of this, just a few clicks. Next, let's talk about management and governance. This is very important. Remember, I talked about scale. It's not just about one user, but about thousands of users. I need to make sure the system is not just performant, but I can manage it quickly and I can keep it secure so data doesn't slip into the hands of somebody who shouldn't have it. So let me show you how Data Mart's fully integrated with Power BI makes it so easy to manage and govern your Data Mart. So security of my data is very important, and Data Mart in Power BI allows me to create and assign role-level security right here in this UI, ensuring only right people that need to see the data get access to it. I go ahead and create a new role with just a few clicks. Create a role, call it EMP, as I only want employees to see their own data and not others. I set up a rule on the orders table to show data only if employee equal to 1. That's it. I click save, and I am now ready for assignment. I switch to the assignment tab, assign Azure Active Directory users or groups right here to this role. For this demo, I assign this role to Arun. So when he accesses this data mart, he only sees the data in the orders table where emp ID equal to 1. Datamart keeps the database and dataset security roles in sync, and you don't have to do that manually. Once I set up, I want to verify that this works. I go ahead and view the Datamart as the role to ensure that only the right data is visible. I see that data is filtered down to just emp1. Great, it just works. Another concern of mine is that my Datamart has sensitive data. I don't want this data to exfiltrate accidentally. I know how much my users love to download data to Excel. I can set sensitivity labels just like I would with any other Power BI artifact right here within the Datamart settings. If sensitivity labels are applied at the data source, they will be brought to the Datamart as well. And the sensitivity labels will carry forward downstream as well. Next, I care about managing my Datamart's lifecycle. I go ahead and include this Datamart in my existing deployment pipelines so that I can start initiating the movement of this Datamart from development to test to production. Via deployment pipelines, I can do a comparison, see the gaps and artifacts between dev and test. I include this Datamart in the pipeline and initiate the movement from dev to test. Once I've deployed to production, one of the top things I care about is that as usage grows, there is end-to-end monitoring. While Datamart is fully integrated into Power BI admin, auditing, and monitoring capabilities, there's one additional capabilities I want to show you. As this is just a fully managed database, I can go ahead and view my query store. Here I have SQL Server Management Studio open.
So Query Store is a feature that comes with SQL Server that keeps track of a lot of all the queries really that run within the database, and you could start seeing here at the bottom is what's called the explain plan. You could see how well it performed, but where she's kind of going with this is, you get an idea of the type of queries that are being run against your database. So I would imagine as some of these things come about as well, that we might be able to force a query to run a certain way so it performs better if we find poor performing queries. But I think if I remember, she's just going to talk about seeing what has been run. So there's a lot out there on if you search for SQL Server on Query Store, but it's a neat feature to be able to see what's going on inside your database.
I can see the query store, see my regressed queries. I can also see the query plan. I can execute dynamic management views for performance monitoring. I execute select statements from SysDM requests to find out my long-running queries. This is all just familiar. This is all great, but at the end of the day, I really want my users to be able to create interactive and operational reports. I also want to be able to embed these reports in my applications. I have everything I need to manage this Datamart. Now, let me show you the experience my users will have to create their reports. I've renamed my Datamart to something more meaningful that my users will resonate with, and I'm ready to share this with my users to create their reports. I've right-clicked on the ellipsis and click on Share, which brings me up the sharing dialog. I want to share this Datamart and add Arun Ulag. I pick his name, grant him access. Now Arun will receive an email with a link to my Datamart. When he opens the Datamart, he's taken directly to the Datamart in the Data Hub. Let me show you the Data Hub experience. I'm in Data Hub, and now I can filter my Datamarts. I can see the Datamart I just created. When I click on it, I'm taken to a page where I can see actions I can take. There's the TDS endpoint, and I can use it to explore data using any SQL tool. I can also analyze the Datamart in Excel. I can view lineage of this Datamart to understand where the data came from and do impact analysis, just like I can do with other Power BI artifacts. Let me show you how easy it is to create a report. I click on Create Report from Scratch, see my orders table, And if you recall, I had created a display folder and a measure. I see them right here. I drop in the total freight measure. I see it's good, and I can start building my report. And just like that, I have built this amazing order analytics report using Datamart. It's just become so easy to do.
And just like that, it was 2 seconds to build out that report, obviously. So I think that's pretty much the end of it there. She just has a couple of wrap up statements. What do y'all think? What do you think of Datamarts? Datamarts was the largest thing, or what Microsoft is touting as the biggest thing that they announced. Any other thoughts or comments on it while I'm stopping this video and I'm going to share other stuff?
Well, I mean,
So
go ahead. Sorry.
as for me, it's a little bit. I'm struggling to find what exactly the best use case is, because there's a ton of overlap of with features that they already have out there. So we have data flows, we have Power BI desktop, and it seems like the one truly unique thing is having the SQL capability. You can connect to it as a SQL server. But other than that, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how it would work in sort of a full build out of stuff.
Yeah.
Because
and I
there
think
is that overlap.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of that as well, right? I think there's going to be a bigger story here. I see Dan's typing. I know Dan's looked at this quite a bit. But here's a use case that I have already that I think has helped at a client. Is we're going through a large change with their Salesforce instance, and it's changing a lot of the Salesforce objects and everything. And we're already bringing that change data in a smaller way into a development environment. And some of the I would call them more business users that work with me closely on my team, they wanted to get in and query the tables and everything else. Well, we don't typically give access to anybody but developers, especially down in dev, even all of our SQL instances. But to allow them to see what was going on, I set up a data mart real quick, pulled in from that development database just the tables I wanted them to see, set it up to refresh once a night at about 4 in the morning. And then this way they're able to kind of look through the data. The data's not changing for them, like what we're running, because we're running our ingest process all day long, so we could fully check our development. So I don't get the questions of why the data is moving or anything like that. So I think that's been a good use case so far. So yeah, let me see what Dan has to say besides Teams doesn't like them. Moving the desktop functionality to the web, was that theoretical? You can have multiple people. Let's see, you could have multiple people, all contributors and members in the workspace, collaborate and work on the same data model without having to pass around a PBIX or a PBIX, however you want to say it. I have 2 tenants where I cannot get the multiple people to be able to work on it. I have been in contact with Microsoft about that. They have a code fix that's supposed to be rolling out. They thought it would be in my tenants as of today, but it hasn't. So I'm going to email them back tomorrow. But like Dan is kind of talking about, is in theory, right? Multiple people working on it. There's the other biggest thing that keeps coming back besides, what are these use cases is source control is going to have to be there, especially if you're going to have multiple people working on it. So hopefully that'll be there at some point. Like Dan is saying again in the chat, a true definition of a workspace, being able to collaborate on everything on these set of assets. So, Amin, you have your hand up. Do you want to contribute to this?
Damn it. I had to contribute.
No,
My
well,
first
I mean,
comment is you got
saying anything is contributing.
five cameras, everybody's got a blue shirt. Like, what's up with that? Is there something? Does somebody have something else?
Blue shirt
Anyway,
day.
no, what I was just going to say in terms of a use case, if I could, convince my leadership to pay for premium per user, like I don't have a data warehouse. So data gets sourced from different places. So rather than spinning, I mean, this is such a simpler approach, right? Like than me going into Azure and spinning up a SQL server and figuring out how to get, I mean, this would be a marvelous turnkey solution, right? If you don't have a data warehouse.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then you'll
But
be
we
able to
don't
use,
so that makes perfect sense.
yeah, you'd be able to use the pipelines like she showed at the end, because that's a premium feature available in premium per user. I think that's really kind of the target, is to get more people, give them better capability, even on premium per user, and then growing up from there. Because even during build, I know Dan was on the same roundtable that I was. They were already asking questions of, how do you see taking data marts and growing them into an enterprise type of setup? So I know they're thinking that way. So I think it's Alexis, right? The way your name comes out with the comma. Make sure I'm calling you the right name. You have your hand up. You want to contribute a little more?
Yeah, yeah. So like you was mentioning, it almost does allow you to bypass a lot of your data warehousing capability. One particular situation that I thought is useful for us is we have some of our
Are we
SharePoint, so that the non-devs are able to manage that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then those dimensions, they have to be part of an ETL that happens on our SQL server, and so that means, and then do the ETL and then suck it back up into Power BI. So something like this would allow you to kind of bypass those some of those intermediate steps. You could theoretically build your entire ETL in the cloud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were cutting in and out a little bit, but I think I got your gist there. But yes, definitely, not having to have the skills or even the access to go into Azure itself, right? If you have a premium per user license, that you could, you're basically spinning up a SQL server. And as they start unlocking more and more of those features, which I don't see why they wouldn't, since it's they're already built in the SQL server. Um, I think it is gonna do, like you said, right? Kind of enable, and that's what their whole thing seems to be, is unlocking the business users from the jaws of IT, right? Which at the same time, if you could do that, should lessen the burden on IT. So hopefully a lot of IT people will take it. But the point of security is a huge thing. You still have to kind of trust people. And Dan kind of made that in just trusting people and who's collaborating. But trusting the people that is getting the data, like if they just put in their ID to the SQL server and then bring all this data over and they start sharing it, because that experience she showed you at the end, where she shared it with somebody inside the company, if your tenant has what's called B2B sharing, business to business sharing enabled, you could share um, that data mart with somebody outside of your organization, as long as they get that B2B um, that B2B user within your tenant. So that, I think, is going to become something that's going to have to be audited better, monitored, right? And maybe even controlled a little bit more. Okay, so we're gone all the way up on the top of the hour. Obviously, I didn't have this timed out very well. So I'm going to try to move on here and see if my little demo works. I had issues with this earlier because I did want to show the PowerPoint, the PowerPoint to with Power BI. So let me bring this slide up. I built this out earlier. And hopefully this doesn't, okay, it's going to authenticate me. That's a good sign. Okay, so I built this out earlier. This is my report. If y'all haven't seen this before, I attend I'm kind of a glutton for punishment. Saturday morning, I talk with a bunch of people beginning early in the morning, and then we sit there and listen and interact on the Guy in the Cube live stream. And the one person from Microsoft that works with Adam and Patrick, Alex, always puts a bunch of links out there. So I got to be saying, hey, Alex. So I collect all those links and I build a report and publish it out almost every week. I missed last week, but um, so, but what you'll notice is this is an interactive report. I'm still within PowerPoint, right? So I should get tooltips. I should get tooltips. Okay, I could change pages, right? So all of these things are interactive. If I want to say what are the links for a particular episode, particular date, right? You can see I'm doing all of this without leaving the PowerPoint experience. There's my tooltip. I don't know why, right? I can drill through all of that comes about. Now, the other thing that I could do is I could change this from being um, live to say show as saved image. And I'm actually going to move to the next one. So first off, let's go back to this page here. And you'll notice, right, what are this top part of the report, whenever they say it depends on the live stream, they have to contribute $1 to the jar. So I track that. So last episode, it was $3. They got a total of $109. This is where to kind of talk about the power of saving as a static image. Here's the exact same report, and you see it shows only through May 14th. And that's when it hit $100. And there's $5 in that contribution. You could see what the link count was and everything down below. So we were kind of talking about this because there are some people in the business or in businesses that do reports up to, say, upper level management or whatever. And their process is to go to Power BI, take a screenshot, paste it into a PowerPoint presentation, and they sit there and do that update on whatever, say a weekly basis or whatever. So you could build this out and keep it as a static page, and then to update it, you got to click off and then back on. You come back up to here and you unclick on your saved image. It should authenticate me. Looks like it worked. And you see it just updated. Okay, so now to set it so that in case it changes before I do my presentation, I just put it back to a saved image, and now I'm ready for my next presentation, right? Automatically update it. This is going to be a huge time saver for people that do this type of, they called it storytelling, using PowerPoint. But we all know PowerPoint is hugely used this way. So to me, this is just amazing, and it was one of the things. As soon as I saw it rolled out, I think that day I went and tried it, and my personal tenants. I went and tried it over in a client tenant. It was interesting because on my client's tenant, trying it with PowerPoint online, because this will work if you do PowerPoint off of the web, but they had the add-in. So let me do another blank screen and show you how this actually works. So for what I'm talking about, cut and cut. So you have this add-ins here. Okay, maybe not there. Insert and my add-ins. Okay, so you have to have an add-in. You could go to the store and get add-ins. So I'm going to go ahead and open that in the store. And you may be first tempted to do this Power BI tiles. Don't. That's not the right one. So if you search for Power BI, thought that would have just searched. It's going to be this one here called Microsoft Power BI. So then you click add, and that's going to then stick within your store. So I'm going to do insert again, my add-ins, and you see I just have it because it's recently used, and I can manage the add-ins. So when you click it, it's asking you to paste a URL report from there. Let's see which. Not that one. Maybe it's this one. Do I have the right one open? Hang on, let me. Okay, yeah, this is the one I want. I had so many browsers open. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over because we've done this report. We talked about the meetup report earlier. So let me bring up this meetup report. James, this is the link that I sent out to you. This is what it would look like when you go out to it. So I could come up here and just grab this report off the menu, or I could do export PowerPoint and embed as an image, embed as live data. So if I say that, it's going to pretty much give me the same setup. So I could say copy. If you say open in PowerPoint, it's going to download a part. I have a feeling I know what Dan's typing, but we'll let him type it. Go ahead, Dan. Tell me the next part. Yes, exactly. The with filters. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this insert here. You see it just authenticated me again, right? Now, again, I got a live setup, right? So let's go ahead and delete that to kind of see if I could do on the fly the part that Dan was talking about. So we got over the next 6 weeks. Come on, delete. I've had this lock up my PowerPoint a couple times, so hopefully that won't happen. So let me do another one. And if I flip back to, that's interesting that I had a different count there than I had here. But I'm going to say like this week. And I think if I do embed live data here, it's supposed to keep this filter. So let's find out. And you see it kept the actual filter that I had at that time, right? Which I think is the difference on if you cut it, if you did the copy of the URL from the browser line, right? This line versus that export. That export will go ahead and keep the filtering. Some of the things that we also found out, if you wanted, we're having discussion about being able to put in just like one visual. And what we discovered is if you grab it from, click off on this, but if you go into focus mode, then it will keep this rendering of the page. There was an argument on Guy in a Cube on whether it was page or just a filter. You're still technically bringing in a page, but it's all brought down to just that one visual. So
yeah, that was an excellent use of airtime, wasn't it?
oh, during the live stream, that was
fun.
greatness. The funny thing was is we set it up on our Saturday morning call ahead of time. That's why all those questions were coming in, those statements, and we already knew the answer. They were, it was kind of like a whole. We didn't know what their response was going to be, but we already knew what the answer was. So it was put in a way to see if they answered it incorrectly or not.
I think that's why you got put in timeout a couple weeks ago.
Matthew yelled.
Shenanigans.
Matthew, when I said this week that I, joking about being on timeout, he goes, "Oh, I felt targeted," so I deleted the message. So I think I'm going to stop. I don't know if he was serious or not. He's got pretty thick skin, but anyways, so. But yeah, we're kind of weird that way. We work together. There was another question. We actually keep our Teams chat up, and sometimes we'll talk on Teams about what's going on Guy in a Cube. All right. So, anyways, like I said, maybe it was going to be more exciting if you want to watch it. through the demo that's on there, that was on the other stuff. If let's see, it's only 6 after. If you guys want to kind of keep going, I'm going to go back to my Cube links, because this is something, and I'm sure I might be able to get Dan to type again. Thanks, Daryl. You have a good day. So I want to talk a little bit about formatted tables. So this is a new feature that was also announced, and I'll put the rest of the links out in the chat here in just a second. But formatted tables is Microsoft's way to get around the 150,000 row limit for exporting from a Power BI report. Us people that have premium per user, we could write paginated reports or whatever in order to come to get around that, but we have to do it off our desktop. This is their first push of putting paginated report development up on the service. Okay, and it's available in Pro. And so what you do is you click on the ellipses and come down to create formatted table. And what it's going to do is bring up this interface, which is a scaled down interface for paginated reports online. And you could click through, you could see I only have a couple of tables inside here. So if I want to get all of the links that that's inside my data set, I could click on title and click on URL. And you can see it's building that out. And now I can export it to Excel, PDF, whatever is supported here. And it's not limited to the 150,000 rows. It's just as many number of rows that that it happens to be. The one thing that, let's see if this is what Dan's typing. I'm going to pause here because Dan and I have been concerned about the same thing. That's exactly it. There are no filter parameters yet. And I don't know if they're going to support filter parameters or not within this. So I've been trying to think of a way to get around the filter parameters, assuming you have access to change the data set and put measures in there. Because when Dan and I were talking about this before, either through chat or something like that, we were both saying you should at least always put a measure in here to make sure you get what you want. If you join two different tables together, and I want to either do a video or a blog post about it. I got all the images captured. But if you try to join two tables together and it cannot find a path in your data model to have it dynamically build out a measure to properly filter the data so it's not cross-joining, you will get an error. So I found that to be pretty interesting. But if you build your own measure, the code that it puts into this report, the DAX query, is a lot cleaner, and I think it would be a lot more efficient. Their stuff wasn't too bad, but so anyways, so that got me thinking: is if I built a measure and just include it onto this table, right? So I built out a measure of is last episode. And so I'm just going to add that measure here. And what you're going to see is how that narrowed down to only the links that existed in the last episode. So as long as you have some rules that, let's say that your users say, I want you to, I have over 150,000 rows, but what I really want is this set of data for just last month, right? You could build a measure like, is it last month, right? And you could include it on this filtered report, because now if I go to reading view, it's going to ask me to save it. I'll call it demo 2. I can't remember what I have in the workspace. So yeah, so you can see now I could save it. It shows it's the report icon, the paginated report icon. It's interesting they call them both reports. And so I could come in and just run it. There's not going to be any parameter selection, right? And it's just going to show. So then your users, if they have access to the workspace, could just do that. Well, if I also produce, I'm going to just pick this data set and I'm going to produce, say, create a report. I think I could do this online. I haven't tried this yet, people. Right, I have the paginated report visual that I could put on here. Connect to a report. There's my demo 2. That's in the guy in a cube links workspace. Set parameters, there are none. So see report. Now you'll have it in a Power BI report that they could do, right? And they can click on open report. So if you put this into an app or something like that, and they still they have the right access and everything, they would be able to do it. There's a little bit of tricks for doing paginated reports and apps, but you know, but you can do this, and then also adding your right measure to it. That would be the next way. That currently it's the best way I found to limit the data that comes out from it. Dan is typing away. Says the guy hanging out. Oh, who's responding to where if any, for people not seeing the chat, where Anthony was getting on Dan, because and Anthony's across the pond and not sleeping at all. All right, so I was kind of happy that that all worked. I could bring up a user here. Yeah, this is a user. Let me get rid of some of these other things. If you guys aren't using it, you really should. I set up my own dev tenant. You know, you could get a free tenant from Microsoft to do for development as long as you keep using it. They'll keep extending every 60 days or something like that. You get 25 E5 licenses. And what I just did recently is I created 2 new users and had them do the trial of Power BI Premium, the premium per user. So now I have 2 users that I've been testing data marts with. So if you want to learn it, this is a way to do it. And when those users' free trial runs out, just create 2 more users, or another user or whatever. Have them go into the trial. Just keep reassigning the license. I have some starter videos on this. This was next in my series that I wanted to get to. I just haven't gotten to it for a few months. So I hope to have another video on how to enable all this pretty soon. But this is the same experience that she showed there, right? I had to get data. You're going to see, I'm going to actually get rid of that. I could bring in something different, but if I go to home, oh, that's interesting. I should be able to edit to do my transform data, but it doesn't seem to be letting me do that. Which user is this? There should be one. Yeah, PPU1. So if I go into this, okay, now it came back. For whatever reason, what I went, oh, I must have been on a tab down here below that. I wasn't on this one. I must have been on the query ones or something and didn't see it. Here, let me show you what I think it was. You notice you have these different, you know, the data part. I see Amin looking closely. Hopefully you can see it well. This is for design mode. This is for query and the relationship. So you have to be here in order to get transform data. So you could see it's just the normal Power Query. This is me bringing in Contoso data from Excel files that I keep up on a SharePoint site. I do this in a lot of my tenants just to keep being able to have some data to practice and mess around with. I think I have that as a video as well. And then, you know, so here, this is just your normal Power Query. Here, you could build out your relationships with it. And then this was the query part of it, right, where I could say, you know, select top 100 asterisk from customer. and I'm going to get the 100 rows. It has this button. I guess this looks like it should work. It doesn't work. Huh. Can't make that smaller. I'll have to report that one. You can say open in Excel, and it actually sets up the get data, the Power Query in Excel. When I did this the last time, it didn't work for me again. So I don't I'll have to mess with that. These new queries and being able to save queries, that seems to be coming. So it's pretty cool. Go to this part. You can see I could build out, like she was talking about, build a new measure. He took a little bit, but right, gives me IntelliSense there, and everything that I want to be able to work with. I have noticed that in some cases, this is one I think I still need to report after. I was doing something in the get the transform data part, and I actually made changes. Maybe it wasn't there because now it seems to be blocked. Oh, I know, it was the formatted table. In the formatted table, when you're producing your query, don't click on the workspace because you'll just lose changes. It doesn't prompt you to save like the report does. And I need to report that as an issue. All right, so let's see what Dan says. The Open Excel is very unreliable right now. It's hit or miss. That's what I found too. Yeah, it doesn't just pass the data, it passes the query and the connection, which is the reason that it's doing that, if you think about it, is to properly enforce the row level security. If it already pushed all the data into the Excel file, then you'd be getting around the row level security. But if it builds out the Power Query within Excel and then sends that, when the user that's consuming it opens it, that query will rerun. And if they have a different row level security setup, they will only get the data that they're supposed to get for that same query. And it allows you to get the data, the latest, like Dan is saying. All right, I'm going to stop talking. We're 20 after. What do y'all think? Are we ready to just say shut up, Kevin, yet, or questions?
It's a lot of great stuff. I mean,
It's
it's in each of the, it's sort of like the PowerPoint thing, which for some people in their workflow, their use case, it's an instant win, instant pickup. And I think each of these things is like that. But it may not be that everything is helpful, right? And that's always how it is, right? That's why there's so many features.
Yep. I'm going to put a
Yeah,
link.
not everybody uses everything.
That's true. I think we've lost a bunch of people. Yeah, well, not too many. So here, guys, I'm going to put a link in the chat to a survey from Microsoft about your thoughts on, make sure I gave you the right one, because there's one they want you guys to fill out, and there's one they want me to fill out.
Is this one
Yeah,
of those
this was
where you say, like, if for any reason you can't give me a 5 out of 5, please don't. You guys have got that from the auto mechanic. You
no.
guys know what I'm talking about with the
Yeah,
survey?
I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about, but no, this has no impact on me. At least I don't think it does. It shouldn't impact my ability to get renewed as an MVP next year, but if it does, then it does. And but Microsoft would like some feedback. I don't know if they're going to share it with me or not. It is what it is at that point. I feel we had, good interaction during the time, for people that did want to interact, and you guys are pretty open with me on what you like and don't like anyway. So, uh, be honest with them, and if you have something more for me, be honest with me too. One more, the only other thing, Again, feel free to just jump in and talk. I'm going to find my PowerPoint slides again because I see somebody in the chat that I want to highlight. Let's see. What are we talking about? All right, so just as a reminder to everybody, right, we also do a session every Thursday at noon Central Time. That is on our meetup group as well. And we're continuing to do the Workout Wednesdays for 2022. So those are really interesting sessions. They're hands-on sessions. And Siri, who's in the chat, she's been quiet today. So now I'll call on her because I'm going to call on her for two things. She has been great at helping us on these Workout Wednesdays. And so, you know, hats off to her big time. She's usually the one that has done it. But what we get into is even when anybody gets stuck or somebody brings up a partial solution, we work through it. We've worked through some very interesting problems and saw some very creative ways of doing things, which I think is even more valuable than completing the exercise. So please join us on those Thursdays. The URL for the meetup, so I shared earlier, and also we showed that while I was doing a little bit of that demo there. So our next two meetings, two monthly meetings, July 5th, we decided to keep it as an open mic night. And calling out Siri again. Siri, you ready? You going to do an open mic presentation?
Yes, I am. I'm thinking
Nice.
to do, I'm thinking to do about the calculation group with the tabular editor. So it
Okay.
will be fun.
Great, great. And we open when we do open mic. You know, the thought is, you know, well, I mean, it could be as long as you want, but you know, 15, 20, 30 minutes or whatever. And if others have something that they want to talk about, or it's a time period you want to try to just venture into presenting, right? It's no pressure, anything like that. So, you know, come and give it a shot. Maybe you'll enjoy it and do more and more presentations, or you know, learn something about yourself. Very welcoming group for it, and it's a great time to do it. So I'll be inviting more people. I'll advertise it off of Twitter. And now also August 2nd, this is where I have Treb, who's a fellow MVP. He's going to come and talk about metrics and go really deep into that. If there's other topics that you want, I haven't started looking for September, October timeframe yet. So just if you know if there's anything that you guys want me to find somebody to speak on, just send it my way, and I'll reach out to um, you know, to either find somebody or I can make up a presentation if it's something that y'all want to hear on. I'm sure it's something that I'd want to learn about as well. So, you know, provide the feedback. And with that, we're done with the official part of the meeting. So I'm going to go ahead, stop presenting, and turn off the recording. If there it is, stop recording.